What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerdcast for the next episode of Cities Skylines. My name is Splattercat, and today we are going to do some suburban development. Yes, some under-urban development. We're making underground mole colonies for right now. Oh, that'd be so sick. How come there's no city builder that takes place underground, like Stalker style, where you're just like all up underneath the earth building in tunnels and things like that? See? We need to think outside the box here. Come up with city builders that nobody's ever thought of. Still, City Skylines has done a really good job at being a fun game. See, we have a lot of dead people. Like, I don't know if it's just part of the game where people have started to die in just droves, but look how many hearses we have running at all the time. Like, seriously, every location has loads and loads of hearses going around. It might be due to the fact that I'm not using cemeteries. Cemeteries might have a bigger capacity for carrying hearses around. Yeah, they can employ 10 hearses, so that's going to be the other half of the... I guess that's the way that it works. 10 hearses still doesn't seem like very much, though. Can I increase their budgetary allotments? Like, how does that work? It's in healthcare? We may need to. Let's take the fire chief's budget down a little bit because he's going to be unhappy about it. And yes, he's going to bitch, he's going to gripe, and he's going to moan. I'll deal with that when we get to the board meeting or whatever it is we do, the city council meeting. But we need to bring healthcare up by maybe 25%. We're going to need a lot more hearses because I don't want to build more facilities because I feel like we have far too many already. However, we do need better efficiency. So they work more efficiently with more funding. I'll probably leave that alone for right now. I know we haven't done any regional transit for a while. That's just something we're going to have to sit on for a bit. We'll deal with it in a while. I promise. We'll get to it. I know that bus systems are going to become necessary once we start to develop some of these suburbs and things out here. But until we get to that point, I feel like we can leave it alone for a little bit. Let's build ourselves some more office buildings because that orange bar at the bottom of the screen is looking very, very full. I don't think I've ever been to an orange bar. I've been to bars that are varying shades of like mahogany and like brass, and they try to make the bars around here anyways. It sort of depends where you're trying to go. You have your typical like Cheers bar, like from the show, you know, the show Cheers, where everything's done in like brass and like wood. That's like your classier bars. Then you have your dive bars, which typically just like low lit and just have like a bunch of pool tables, and then it's like a very basic bar setup. But much other than that, you don't see a whole lot of like theme bars around here. Most of them seem to be going after the you want to go where everybody knows your name. You want to go where everybody knows your name. I like that song. That song makes me happy. I don't know why. That song makes me feel included. Every time I feel it, every time I hear that song, I'm like, yeah, that guy gets it. Everybody wants to go where everybody knows their name. Maybe not everybody. Most of the people, not some of the weird skeevers, like the weird skeezers or something. You know, I almost said skeevers because, I don't know. I've got myself a fair amount, not like a lot of them, but a fair amount, not an unfair amount, not a cheating amount, but a fair amount of just like Elder Scrolls on the brain right now. I wish that there was more Skyrim to be played. I do. I wish that there was more Skyrim. What does that do? It dezones? Well, you can just do that with right click anyways. Why would you ever want, maybe you can double click it for double dezoning power? That'd be pretty awesome. I'd be okay with that situation. Let's take some quad roads in right here. And off the... What the hell? Did I just upgrade right there? Oh, man, that's not an upgrade. That's a downgrade. See, that nomenclature is off. We need to take ourselves a 6-lane road right here. It's got trees on the sides. Well, hell, we can't upgrade it, but I'll be damned if we can't connect it. And see, now it looks weird. Now it looks weird, and that's what I was worried about happening. It's unfortunate, but I guess we just have to live with it at this point. Let's pipeline some of our traffic out this way. I need curvy roads, though. I need curvy roads. And then once they get to, like, right there... That's when we'll start to curve them inwards, and maybe we'll have like a slight junction right there. But for all this, we just need it to sort of like run through the center of town. And then eventually we'll have it... That might cause a traffic problem, but I guess we'll cross that ship when we get there. There we go. We'll cross that ship when we get to the bridge. I'm going to just continue to like cross over as many different sayings as possible. And then we'll also have that connect right there. And I think a decent plan now would be to just have little like 4-lane roads cropping off right here. And for excess space, what we can then do... Maybe I'll just go with straight roads for right now. How's that sound? Let's just go for straight roads for a second. So now that we have straight roads taken care of, let's throw in one of these bad boys every now and again. We'll take the little roads, and we'll have them connect like right there. Make optimal use of as much of the space that we have as possible. That's got a lot of intersections right there. That's got a lot of intersections. I think I will probably bulldoze this guy just to keep that extra intersection away. Make this all stay nice and clean because I feel like it's going to get very, very dirty and sort of problematic if I press on it too much for right now. We have the need for office buildings, And so I'm just going to continue to place them all around the outside edges right here. It looks like I accidentally zoned some of this for residential, and I'm not okay with that. So let's keep this all zoned the way that it's supposed to be zoned. There it is. Okay, fantastic. And then we'll go down this way. Just paint this up a little bit, just to let everybody know that we're working on it. We're making it work right now. This might be the point at which we want to drop in a few more services. So let's do that. Maybe a clinic right there. At the end of the road, a cemetery, just to make sure that bodies are being... we already have a cemetery. Never mind. That was the worst plan ever. Let's never do that again. Let's go back. Let's shake hands and make sure that as our phalanges cross, that we shall never do that ever again, because I think we might have too many medical services running around. Oh, yeah, we do, don't we? We've got a cemetery right there, too, although that one wasn't planned. That one just sort of happened. It was an accident, a happy accident, as my mother used to say. No, I'm just joking. Let's go over here. We've got a police station. We've already got one way over there. So another police station would be best served perhaps over here. That seems okay. That'll work. It's not going to have any electricity for right now, but they can function without it for a little bit. And then we're going to need schools. We got an elementary school in right there. We have no high schools, which means that it's time to build one right there. That's going to help us out and keep us from actually losing out on any of this. We might need a new uni, too. I don't know. Let's take a look here. We have one uni. It might be a good idea to... So which area is not currently being serviced by a university? All of this actual middle inner city area. If we were to drop one in right there, we might get some extra mileage out of it. However, then it wouldn't service this area either, which is troublesome. But it would service all of that, so we're already covered right there, and that would expand our line out just for like this part of the city, basically. Whereas if I put it right here, it actually doesn't help that out at all either. Okay. Well, I'll probably just plop it in right there so that this big city area has a place where everybody can go to school, and that'll work out for a little bit. It doesn't help this area out much, but this area is still developing, so it's going to be a while before this area needs anything sophisticated anyways. It's spreading off into this direction. Pretty soon, we're going to have pretty much our entire grid taken care of. What happens after Metropolis? Oh, we need 60,000 people for that, so it's going to take us a bit before we get ourselves into that position. So let's just focus on the task at hand, because believe me, it is taking up some major palm space right now. Don't tell the people down in Malibu. There we go. We're crossing over palm homonym jokes now. Palm trees, palm in your hand. You see where I'm going with all this. Maybe we'll go a little bit more residential in here, although this is next to a fairly large road. I think I would prefer that this all remains sort of like suburb out here. I don't know why, but I'm leaning towards suburban development today. That's just what I'm in the mood for. And the fact that I have any mood whatsoever towards like development of land tracts is kind of like a weird thing to think about. It's an odd desire. It's a very odd desire, but let's keep this whole area as residential. Like seriously, this entire area is just going to be residential housing. It's going to be one of those subdivisions that just runs along forever. If you're from Europe, you should check out how houses are like developed in the United States, because honestly, it's very, very weird how they part and parcel things out down here. Like cities, as long as they're after like the 80s, after the 80s is when like major subdivision like corporate development started. And so any area that's like after the middle 80s is developed very much in this way, where they just take huge tracts of land, they keep them all nice and perpendicular and lined up, and they just develop the shit out of them with like homes to sell for, in the Bay Area anyways, $450,000, $500,000 a pop. And then they walk away, and I think they said that it takes them a good like 30 years to turn a profit on that, but once they do, it's just like endless assets basically. What I would do right here is turn this into commercial zoning. And then I would continue to keep this up and running right here. And maybe even think about making an industrial area to go with all of this. Like maybe some small scale industrial in here. People are not going to like it, and it is going to make people along the edges sick. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Stop that right now. We need some serious power transfer to take place, but it's going to take us a bit of time to develop all this, so I'm just going to wait on it for a second. Down here, it looks like we put a little demand dent in our services category. However, It's not much, so we're going to have to figure something out on this side. Maybe like a 4-lane road that branches off from right here. And once it branches off from right there, it can go into something like that to maybe help out a little bit with... Was that a 6-lane right there? That's a 6-lane? Okay, well, that'll just have to deal. And then we'll just call this industry right here. We haven't built industry in a while, so I figure we should probably get on it. There's probably a decent demand for it at this point. We'll call this like an industrial area. And that should work out. We're going to need trash disposal services up in here at some point. And so before that gets out of hand, I'd say just to throw an incinerator down and in right here. And we'll see how it copes with the full barrage of human sewage that comes from this area. I'm not calling the people that I see them. The people in this area, when I said that, they raised their eyebrow and they're like, did you just call us sewage? We'll see who we vote for in the next election. I'd be like, go ahead and vote. It doesn't do anything. The ballot boxes are empty. I dumped them all out just into the gutter. I don't even care. Not even vaguely. I am emperor for life of this entire area, and there's nothing you can really do to deal with that fact. Alright, so up in... Gotta get myself reorganized right now. We have more than enough solar power plants. How's that looking? Well, maybe not. It might be a good idea to have a few more solar grids up in here. Maybe take that guy. I'm not going to put it next to the suburbs, though. We'll put it, like, right there. And then once that's in play, it should eventually connect to this side. But, in the interest of preceding that initiative, I'm going to move that to right there, so that whenever I do develop all this out, we'll be lucky enough to where the power will jump down this road and then follow up into that suburb as also a backup. So we got a little bit of power farming going on down here. I would say, can we... How's the wind farm looking down here? Oh, actually, there's that pristine. That's... Let me see here. This looks like pristine development land, this little lagoon right here, for getting our electrical systems up and running. But, we'll leave it alone for a second. Let me give them a pipe right there. There you go. I've gifted upon you the pipe of the mayor. Do you like the mayor's pipe? Well, feel free to partake in the mayor's pipe as much as you desire. As much as you desire, my lovely residential friend. Is all of that zoned properly? Okay, so all there is to do is just like wait on that now. I kind of wish it wasn't developing from that side. I could have forced it by starting over on this side, but I'm a noob like that and I hate success, so I stay away from doing it. These down in here should give them a little bit of room to operate. I don't know if we have enough uneducated workers to keep that going. We seem to be doing a really, really good job with education so far, so I suppose we'll have to wait it out and see. But I could foresee that there would be a potential situation eventually where you would be too educated and you'd have nobody to do the manual labor around town. We still have 10% of our citizens who need industrial work or something like that, so we'll see how it goes. Over here, let's deal with our educational woes before we go any further. And so there's an educational woe taken care of, like whoa. And so we've got that right there. We've got some possible healthcare needs as well. And so we'll drop in a clinic right there. We'll put in one more mortuary right there. Fire trucks, obviously I think we're going to need some help with that on this side of town too. Increase that coverage, make sure that we got a little bit of whoop whoop going to whatever corner needs it. Can I get a whoop whoop? Something, 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 something. Never knew the words to this song, so I'm just gonna sing it. Let's go over here. Make it up as you go. That's like fake it till you make it, I suppose. Fake it until you make it. They hate us because they ain't us. That's probably one of my favorite lines from a movie of like the last year. I don't get out and see sophisticated films, but if you haven't seen The Interview, it's not sophisticated. It's very lowbrow, but it's hilarious. I don't know. Anytime James Franco and Seth Rogen do anything, I'm like, well, I'm going to shell out $10 for this. It's not going to be enlightened humor. It's not going to have a whole lot of nuance, but damn is it going to be funny and just like, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. It's just sort of like, it's sophomoric, I guess would be the word, which means wise fool, by the way, if you wondered what sophomoric was. A sophomore in high school, it means that you are a wise fool in nomenclature. It means that you've been there long enough to know the ropes, but you haven't been there long enough to be fully educated. You're a sophomore. That's what it means. Wise fools. Let's see. Well, this is developing out. What's the maximum that these households can ever do? I would assume that something over here has to have hit like the maximum development range. Yeah, right there. And so it's the Willow residence. Eventually it turns into this. Oh my god, look at that thing right there. The Willow family is apparently doing very, very well in life. Holy shit, they've got like roof access to their house. Oh my god. That looks like the place from the Wolf of Wall Street, basically. Like, just more money than you know what to do with, so you just buy, like, dumb shit and then get super high and crash your helicopter. You know, I read the comments. I was reading the comments on that movie from people, and people were just, like, more or less picking on, what's his name, Jordan Bedford or whatever? I think that was what his name was. They were just kind of, like, bitching and moaning about how terrible of a human being he was, but I was like, but that's the point of the movie. It's just to show you how far, like, that 80s debauchery, like, do whatever you can to make it mentality went. It was very real. That whole yuppie movement created guys like him, and don't kid yourself for a second. Guys like him still exist. They just stay very much under the radar nowadays, or at least they try to. They stay under the radar, and then they stay in their own communities so that, like, nobody ever notices the extravagance that they live under, because everything's behind closed doors and everything's behind closed gates, actually, would be the better way to put it. They keep their own circles, and they stay out of the general population because they don't want people to realize how good they're living. That's how you end up with things like the French Revolution, when you got people down the hill and they can look up to the top of the hill and see how you're living. That's a bad thing if there's not enough crumbs to trickle down, and so that's why the system is arranged how it is nowadays. Like, how many absurdly wealthy people do you know? I don't know any. Not a single one. I know people that are wealthy by, like, a suburban standard, but not by, like, an urban, we live on, you know, Park Avenue type of way, because they keep their own circles. There are wealthy people, and then there are, like, absurdly wealthy people. People so wealthy that, like, you have to pay for the pleasure of their company. Or at least you have to pay your dues. You have to be the kind of wealthy person that, like, runs into them somewhere at some country club, you know what I mean? You don't just, like, rub noses with, I don't know, the Johnson family, for example, from Johnson & Johnson. The pharmaceutical companies, things like that. The Bayer family. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we're going to have enough workers. I think we might not have enough workers to actually formally be able to go in on all this industrial. I'm hoping that as this develops, we will end up with that. We'll have enough uneducated workers to make this function properly, but I can't promise it. It may or may not work. These are all below spec right now, though, so we'll have to wait and watch it out. Do some weight watching, I guess. Call up that Jenny Craig. That Suburban Jenny Craig. There we go. We'll go into right there. We get you guys all picked through. Very, very good. Covered with the color of the residential. And I think this should spread out very, very nicely. I think we are looking at potential traffic concerns in certain areas, but it seems to be thinning out now that the population is spreading around. We're not getting quite as much. If you watch, there's not so much traffic coming in through this direction as there was before. Some people are choosing to use this exit. Some people are choosing to use no exit at all, come through town this way. So I think in the end we should be able to make that work. On this side, we continue to have more burnt down buildings and then a couple of abandoned flats. We don't want any ghouls to show up. If we were in the Shadowrun world, that would be the real problem, is every time you have abandoned buildings, ghouls show up. I don't know what a ghoul is. It's just sort of like a mutant, I guess. It's a mutant. It's a psychotic zombie mutant. Vampires, I think, are included in that as well. Yes, you have vampires. You have wendigos and all kinds of things that are sort of like included under the whole supernatural ghoul quality. If you don't like read Shadowrun and you aren't into it, I highly recommend it. Shadowrun is a very cool universe and underutilized in my opinion. Heavily underutilized. Poorly utilized most of the time. In fact, like, most Shadowrun games and books are bad, but the good ones are so good because it's such a setting that really allows those things to bloom. So when you end up with stuff like Shadowrun Dragonfall, for example, it just comes into its own. It looks amazing. Then again, when you have something like Shadowrun Chronicles, it's like, I'm still waiting on Shadowrun Chronicles before I give it like a final verdict, but I'm remaining skeptical for right now. I wasn't so pleased with the way that it developed over time. We'll see what happens with it. My guess is that we're going to need more expensive office buildings. Like, I think we just need educated labor by and large, because this entire area, while it did ultimately wipe out, it's a little bit disappointing that people don't work below their means. But then again, I guess that's sort of like realistic. People that have like expensive PhDs and degrees and things like that, when they become unemployed, they tend to avoid doing jobs like factory work and things like that. We have $1.3 million right now. My God, that's so much money. It is such an absurd amount of cash. We should also start sprinkling in parks and things right now before, like maybe in this little tract right here seems to be the best place to do it. There's a nice big one. I was going to say, I think that's the largest one that you can build. Whether or not it's the best one you can build, I don't know, but it's worth $5,000, so you figure you get something done. $5,000 worth of park won't take you very long in the real world, but in the game world it seems to do fairly well. Didn't help any of these residential people out either, so let's give them like another one right down here on the end of the street maybe. So that maybe that'll possibly help them out. They need to have the back roads. That's always what designed, like, or defined. That's the word that I'm looking for. I'm getting my F's and my S's all screwy right now. But that's what always defined the suburbs for me, is that in these little areas there would be like these little roads that the maintenance guys from the city would use to get around. You could hop the fence on them and allow you to get in between all the different residential neighborhoods. Spent more of my life hanging out and walking down those than I'd like to admit. Little roundabout park over here. Things looking good right now. I think our city is growing in a way that is very, very satisfactory, and I'm happy with the way things are going, with a de-emphasis on the factories finally. Not to worry so much anymore about the availability of factory labor and things like that. I think a lot of our labor is going out to this area right now. That already burned down, so let's go ahead and get it off the zoning grid real fast. It doesn't de-zone when it burns down, right? Okay, good. So that'll work out. We got another one over here that needs to be rebuilt as well. And so with the last minute or two, that's actually what I'm going to do, is I'm going to do abandoned building watch here and see if we can get rid of all of it. Just kind of like cycle through our city, throw ourselves up onto the back of a bicycle and hope that we can find the little moodles that we need. It says there's one over here. Where's it at? Oh, I missed it because it was hidden back behind there. It looked like a Denny's or something like that. That's what it looked like. A Denny's or a Pizza Hut is what that looked like. We'll bulldoze some of these and hopefully it'll refill back in with things that are useful to us rather than stuff that just goes out of business very, very quickly. Although we haven't had to deal with a whole lot of like abandoned buildings over the course of the last episode or so. It seems like it's been going reasonably well as far as the land development is concerned. We do have some around, don't get me wrong, but it's not as bad as it was like 5 episodes ago where it was starting to look like we were going to have a serious like devaluing problem. Where, oh, there it is right there. There it is right there. And so on this side we got a couple as well. I'll probably hunt and peck these out all by my lonesome and give you guys a little bit of a short but, you know, eventful episode by comparison. My name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here at the Nerd Castle for the next episode of City Skylines. I look forward to seeing you all in future episodes. Take care out there, everybody, and as always, hi-do.